Hi, I'm Chris, and this is Ashley, and we are a couple surviving sexual addiction and infidelity. Ashley spoke about her part in how she's reacted to relapses. I'd like to take a little bit of time and speak for myself as the addict, how I've reacted. First of all, and Ashley mentioned it in hers, as an addict, for myself, the honesty portion of it has been very difficult. Um, I have not done well with it at all. Only one time in the last 3 years, since everything was discovered and unraveled and began this process of recovery, only one time was I completely honest and came forth immediately with the fact that I had relapsed. The other times, she's pulled it out of me. She's discovered it. She's um, sensed that something was up, and so in that sense, I've reacted very poorly in the past to relapses. In that I was an addict and allowed myself to be an addict, and went into that shame cycle to feel worthless and feel like I'll never get over it, and so I'm just going to keep it safe. Keep that sacred, that secret. And for myself as an addict, that's one of the things I do. I tell myself that lie of, well, Ashley's having a hard day, so I'm not going to tell her right now. And she may not necessarily be having a hard day. Perhaps she is, but as an addict, I take whatever emotion she's feeling right there and I blow that up, uh, 100 times to where it's, well, I'm not going to tell her. I'll tell her later. And of course, later never comes because the whole purpose of that lie I tell myself is to continue in the action. It's not wanting to stop. It's not being willing to stop yet. And so that's something I wish I could say I've been really good about the relapses. I also wish there were no relapses, and we talked about that. That's something that I think very quickly needs to be understood. Um, Not that every single person is going to have a relapse, but the likelihood that you will relapse is very, very high. And I think understanding that is key to understanding, okay, how should I react? How will I react when it happens? And start to formulate the plans, put things in place. Because, I thought, well, I've got to stop doing this at some point. At some point is my last time. And so when everything was unraveled, in my mind it was, that was the last time. I'm done. This will never happen again. And it went great for 5 months. But then when it happened, because I hadn't prepared myself, I was thinking, oh, this will never happen again. It's again, oh, I'm worthless. I'm terrible. I'm not going to tell her now. I got to figure out. How I'm going to stop. And of course, that doesn't happen. You just keep doing it and you binge. So in the past 3 years, 2.5 years, almost 3 years now, it'll be 3 years in August that I've had sobriety. But prior to that, for a year and a half period, there was 5 major relapses. And in that, I'm talking only one time was I honest. And so it was a relapse that happened once. And then I was immediately honest about it and immediately went to work on overcoming. The other periods, it stretched up to 6 weeks of relapsed and just continuous relapse. So for me, handled very poorly. Now I'm in this period of sobriety, and one of the things that has greatly helped me in that is knowing that Ashley is always there. And I've always known that because she's always reacted so very well to it, has always uh, expressed her faith in me, her belief in me, and talked to me about how we can get through it together. And with honesty being the thing I struggle with, we kind of formulated this plan that every week I can do this weekly inventory where if I wasn't honest, because first of all, the goal and the bottom line boundary we have is if I relapse, I tell her within 24 hours. A safeguard for that so that I don't get in that mindset of, well, oh, she's having a bad day, so I don't lie to myself, so I don't keep in the action, is every week I'm going to review, do a weekly inventory, and is there anything that I haven't been honest about? Not just did I relapse, but is there anything I haven't been honest about? And we're going to talk about that. And so I write it down. I write that inventory down because that's the first key. For me, having that difficulty, that weakness of coming right out with it, if I can put it on paper, it's out there. And I give it to her and she sees it. And then we can start talking about it. And so that's been very helpful for me because in this current period of sobriety that I'm in, this period of recovery, 1 month into it, I had a near relapse. And I didn't tell Ashley immediately. I started with the partial truths of, kind of letting her know about some struggles, as if that will clear my conscience. But it was a few days later, as we're going through this inventory process, that I was able to say, you know what, Ashley, that period a few days ago I told you about, here's all of the details around it, because it stretched further. And that was wonderful to me because it showed me that I can be honest. It showed me, the path I'm on. And so, now setting up stricter boundaries for myself in everything I do, I will say that there have been relapses. Now, it's not a relapse with the pornography or the sexual addiction, but it's breaking some type of a boundary that I've put in place. Whether it's anger, and acting out in rage or whatever it might be. And it's allowed me to be honest about it, and then it allows me to evaluate where I am in the addiction. Because if I can recognize, how I'm kind of getting off the path, it'll help me understand the need to kind of come back so that I stay free from the addiction. And that's been so key, is being able to talk about it. Now, Ashley talked about how, how compassion on my part is so important. And I mean, I was terrible about that in the beginning. And even I remember periods where, I was putting together sobriety. I remember one time being 5 weeks sober, and Ashley was struggling, having a trigger, and I got really angry in that of, well, I can't even be happy about my sobriety right now. Totally a terrible reaction, a horrible reaction. And so important for the addict to start to learn compassion, empathy, understanding of why your spouse might struggle, why your spouse might not trust you. And for me, I've learned why would I expect her to trust me when I can't even trust myself? If I'm honest about it, I can't trust myself. And that's why I set up boundaries for myself. So learning all those things and understanding that it's okay for her to not be okay right now. And to try and find out, well, what do we need in that? Do I need to step away because I'm going to act horribly? And that may not be what she needs right there, but I'm sure it's a lot better than if I react horribly. And so in relapses, that's important. I have learned I need to be honest immediately. And I'm grateful that we have set up this kind of rule or inventory that if I haven't been honest immediately, I have an opportunity to be honest, to reflect on that instead of just letting it go forever. I've learned, so not only be honest immediately, but to be completely honest.
Yeah, and I think because one of the biggest things about this whole situation that I've heard time and time again is that he he was afraid that if he told me, I think that this was just a part of it. I think a lot of the times addicts, mainly, they just don't want to stop. So once they've started a relapse and they start that binge, they don't want to stop. But I think there's another portion that he has told me often, like, well, she can't take one more thing. She's going to leave me now. This is going to be her breaking point. And I'm, on the other hand, sitting there thinking, I have been here through this all. Like, how can you not let me in? How can you not tell me? And so, like he's saying, by having the couple of windows, and even though it was a boundary that I wanted to know within 24 hours, if he came to me 5 days later and reported to me through writing or whatever was easier for him and was like, by the way, here's all this that I didn't reveal to you, nothing was going to happen to him. It was like, great, thank you for reflecting on it and being honest with me. And that's something that I think if we're here and if the spouse is there fighting and working on it, chances are they're going to keep fighting and working on it. You just got to be honest.
Well, and that's what that allows. It's if it doesn't happen immediately, but it can happen soon, it allows to be able to work through it instead of not. Because I wish so bad we could have those periods back. Those 6 weeks periods where we just started to grow apart again because I'm not there. I'm not in it. The recovery would have happened, progressed so much quicker and better. But it is a cycle of things, and it's a work in progress, and it'll always be. It's a constant reflection. And, these videos are very much that for us. An opportunity to reflect and go, okay, where have we come? Yeah. And what do I need to keep working on? Because this reminds me. Yeah. What am I going to do if I relapse? What will I do? And I ask myself that, and I work through that. So just be honest, exercise compassion and understanding, and just work through it. And don't lie to yourself. That's the biggest thing. I can't tell her now she's having a bad day. That's a lie. That's a lie to just keep doing it. It's 100% that.
And understand that you're an addict. I mean, one of the most helpful things that Chris said to me, because I had got it in my head, man, then you don't love me. You don't love me. And he told me, listen, I had a family member who got cancer from smoking and all these different kinds of things, and they said, you're gonna die. You're gonna lose your family. You're gonna die if you don't quit. And do you think he quit? He didn't quit. Ashley, he was addicted. And it's true. I don't understand addiction very well in that sense. I haven't had something that has completely ran my life like that. And so I tried to find something, and I tried to find empathy. And so I just started to research a ton. And the more I researched addiction, the more it just really much was that it wasn't that he didn't love me. It wasn't that he wasn't trying. It was just he developed an addiction from a very young age that is not going to take just one tiny, like, don't do it again, and then you're done. It's not going to work that way, and I'm sorry that it doesn't. I'm sorry for my husband. I'm sorry for the addicts out there. For you. Because it's that has got to be so hard when he wanted it to. He wants with every fiber of his being to stop being an addict, but he just... He couldn't, and he needed help. Eventually he could. I want that hope to be very clear. Yeah, it's just a process. It's a long process, and I needed to understand that, as bad as it hurt, and I did not want to go through it. Not at all. I needed to understand that he was an addict and that it was not going to be some walk in the park. You see all these um, addiction therapy places and rehabs and stuff that people go to, and they come back out and they OD the next week. You know, it's not that simple. And sexual addiction, that's on you 24/7. You've got tapped into your brain, and you've got the parts on you that are accessible 24/7, whereas drugs you have to go and find. It's a hard addiction to break, and I just want to put that out there because I think it became very clear to me that I kept thinking, well, then he doesn't love me, and it's just not that simple.
No. Yeah, it's not.
And it's sad, and we are sorry. We're sorry for any home that this hits, because it is a rough road, but it is a road that you can get through if you continue to work.
You can definitely do it.
So, thank you.